Hello, Tech Pros, episode 133.
I think it's important to have an early morning routine. I know that there's a lot of guys that espouse to that, and for me, it's having a quiet time and reading scripture and getting centered.
Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week, we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce my featured guest today, Todd Conklin. Happy Sunday, Todd.
Hey, Chad. How are you?
I'm doing great, man.
Good.
It's good to see you again. Since it's been a few weeks since I saw you at Podcast Movement.
It is. Good to see you, and hope things are going well.
Man, I had a blast. That was my first year at Podcast Movement. I had just launched, about 2 months before going to that event, and I was so nervous when I went. I told my wife, I don't know what to expect because I've been to all these IT conferences, technology conferences, and I know the format, right? I know the speakers, I know the attendees, I know the breakout sessions, I know pretty much everything about them, big conferences, small conferences, but podcasting is so new to me. It's such a foreign concept. I had no idea what to expect. What did you expect before you went?
Well, you think it's new to you. I haven't even launched the show yet, and I'm a geologist, so I went knowing some people there. And, nice. For me, it's a very open slate for me to just learn and figure out this other venture that I've got going on. So, I kind of used my ignorance to my advantage, and people will help you when you just say, look, I don't have any idea what I'm doing. And people will help, especially in this industry. That's what I found out. And some guys asked me, what about Podcast Movement? My takeaway was, in this kind of online space and podcast space, people are willing to help you become successful because the market is so large versus like oil and gas. Everyone's tight-lipped and everyone's secretive and no one's going to help anybody. You got to figure it out on your own. So that was the distinction that I saw in the two types of conferences.
Yeah, and also what I've seen is just like internet marketing stuff, right? Those folks are very either tight-lipped or all they're doing is selling you, right? Everybody's pitching everybody. They're all trying to sell their programs on the best, the top ways to interact with Facebook users and best ways to get tweets on or followers on Twitter and all this kind of junk, as opposed to like in the podcasting world. For me, I felt same way that you did. Like, people were very genuine. They wanted to help each other. They're storytellers. Like, for many, many, many people at that event that I talked to, they weren't trying to do this for a business. They just do it because they like doing it. And it's just fun to just have conversations with people and have other people listen in, interact with them on media or on the website or whatever. And it's just a great medium to create connections with people.
And that's, to be honest, that is one reason that I'm looking at this is, meeting people like you. I mean, I didn't know you until you and I were standing in line together. So I think it's a great avenue to meet people.
So let's meet Todd. Let me do this introduction for Todd real quick for my audience. Todd Conklin is a 32-year veteran in the oil and gas business. He manages a family oil and gas company in Texas, as well as his own oil and gas production. Currently, he's the chief geologist for Unit Petroleum. Todd is also starting a podcast, and mastermind called The Significant Mentor, in which he interviews accomplished people about the mentors in their life. He discovers what makes people tick and the backstory to their success. Todd, I love that idea. I love the idea of bringing mentors, talking about mentors. That's what, I feel like I didn't realize it until just recently, is that's what my show's kind of about, right? Is I've had all these mentors in my career and in my life, and I didn't realize how much value they've added to my life until very recently. And so when I start thinking about the people that I want to help in technical professionals, IT professionals, software developers, website designers, all that kind of stuff, It's like I want to help them understand it's not just the technical stuff, but it's really the soft skills, it's the relationships, it's the people and communication, it's the motivation, it's all that kind of stuff together that has helped me increase my career and start my business and just keep me going, keep me going in life. And so I love the fact that you're putting your take on the mentors that has inspired your guests.
Well, and the one thing that I found out when I was listening to podcasts were there's a lot of guys that want to talk about how to make money and how to do this and, like you say, the 3 steps and all that. But what was interesting to me, my observation is they always said that there was a critical mentor that was really helpful in their journey, but they were so busy talking about their steps that they never really unpacked the mentor story or how that looks. And so I kind of started a 25-year plan. I'm in my mid-50s because I was like, okay, I got about 25 years. What's this going to look like? And I kind of have a heart for, I was very successful, and I had a great father who passed away about 16 years ago. And, I could not imagine my life without his relationship in my life. And so I'm like, how do we create a role model using the internet for guys that don't have dads or don't have people in their lives? Because that's really what helps a lot of these people become so successful, is they have somebody or multiple people that help them along the way.
Man, that's so powerful. I mean, that hits me on so many levels, both professional, the career level, as well as the family level. If you have somebody or don't have somebody there that's with you from the time you're learning whatever craft that you're learning, or just learning life in general and how to survive and how to adapt and how to be the best possible you, that person can really, really just set you on the right path, right?
Sure.
And without that person, it's really difficult to find that alignment and what is that right path that I need to be traveling down.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm working, trying to figure out kind of a program for some people. Well, my son just took a gap year between high school and college, and trajectory for a lot of young guys is a huge deal because different things that they can do between 18 to 25 really influences their trajectory of their life. Mm-hmm. And for me, if I take a gap year, it's just, it's not going to influence my trajectory too much.
Right.
And so, but at an early age, it's really important to have that guidance and be able to answer or have questions answered that you're trying to search for and you're not really sure, and your confidence gets dinged a little bit. And so that's what I think is needed out there, is just some role models, and we learn through story. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is bring stories that you don't necessarily hear, and someone can connect and go, oh, that was me. I can do this. And so that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, Todd, today is Sunday being Unplugged, and we've kind of talked a little bit about work and kind of a mix of work and life and family here on the show to kick it off this morning. But one of the things that you just said is that it's about stories, and kind of tying it back to both work and about family. One of the biggest things to me as a young kid that I remember very, very vividly is these family reunions. And the family reunions where all of the quote unquote old people, right, would all sit around in the lawn chairs, and they would kind of sit around in a semicircle or in a circle, and the kids would be running and playing and going in and out. But every now and then you just kind of get tired, you get your cold drink, your soda, your lemonade, whatever you're doing, and you'd sit there on the floor and just listen to the adults talk about life. And I remember very, very vividly as a young man, specifically sitting in front of aunts and uncles and grandparents and listening to their stories about work and about life and about just all the trials and tribulations and successes they've had, and what it really boiled down to them, and the big takeaways, the big things that were important to them. And I don't know that I really, really appreciated it when I was a kid, but now looking back, it's like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have had more of those stories. I wish I could have recorded those stories so that I could hear them back again today.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, those relationships are what keeps you going. Because money's nice. And I'm in my mid-50s, and I got very sick last year. But I would have given anything to write a check to get better. I'm fine now. But
good.
You learn when you don't have your health or your friends or your family, money is really pretty empty.
Yeah.
And so that's a lesson I got to learn last year.
So tell us about your idea of being unplugged. So I kind of share a little bit of mine, but what does being unplugged really mean to you, Todd?
Yeah, so unplugged to me is obviously kind of what everyone thinks is just unplugged from electronic communication and just the phones, and we're just inundated with direct messaging and all this kind of stuff that we feel like that we need to reply in 2 seconds or 15 minutes. And, if you haven't replied in 3 hours, then what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And so usually I'm really good on vacation, whether I'm and so being on a beach, sitting in the sand, reading a book, or on a hike in the mountain, having close friends over for dinner, that is unplugged for me. And then there are times when I just want to be alone and vegetate in a dark room watching a movie. And to me, that's unplugged for me. But relationships without phones, it's just interesting. I've got a 19-year-old son, a 15-year-old daughter, and a 13-year-old daughter. And my 15-year-old said, "I'm talking to somebody." I said, "You're not talking to somebody. You're texting them. There's a difference." And so it's just learning how to relate to people face to face is something that I think young people do. It doesn't feel like they do it as much as they should without the phone being a problem.
So why is that face-to-face communication? Why is that medium? Why is that communication style so important, especially in today's economy and today's society where everything is plugged and everything is online all the time? Yeah. Why do we still need this face-to-face communication so desperately?
Well, it's there's so many things that are between the lines. There's the body language, there's the inflection, there's the sarcasm, and in a text you cannot detect all that. And so it just heightens your people skills, how to deal with people. Ultimately, let's say you're a tech guy, and I'm a geologist, I deal with engineers, and so the guys that will get ahead in these businesses are not the smartest guys. They're going to be the guys that have the emotional, the EQ, right, and the people skills guys, the guys that can present, the guys that can communicate and communicate to the guys above them that don't have the background, but they can distill it down. And so that's the practice you need when you're young is communicating face to face, because in the boardrooms and stuff like that, these guys don't have phones. It's a face-to-face meeting.
Man, I wish I would have learned that lesson like 20, 25, 30 years ago, dude, because I struggled so bad I was that guy behind the monitor, right? I would just focused on the technology, just focused on the algorithms and the math and the, just solving the problems, like the technical problems. Yep. And once I get it to, okay, it works. Look at my screen. It does exactly what I wanted it to do. That it didn't take me as far as other people that I saw in the office that at the time, I now have tons of respect for, but at the time I didn't have a lot of respect for, because I was like, they're not even practicing, they're not even working hard, they're sitting around shooting the bull with 5 other people all day, every day, and now they're the ones getting promoted, and I'm sitting here just getting the grunt work.
Yeah, being able to present is a huge differentiator between people that are just as smarter than you, because the guys up above, they just want the cliff notes. What does this mean? I don't need you to tell me how to build the clock. I just need to know what time it is. And if you can't explain that, in a short amount of time, because I got a ton of other things going on, then I'm going to find someone who will. And so that's my advice to people who are in high tech positions. And there are some people that don't want to do it. I mean, they're content on, playing with the algorithms and doing formulas and spreadsheets and coming up with the very precise answers. And we need those guys.
Yeah.
But if you kind of are feeling like, man, I like this stuff, but I want to, advance my career, learn how to present.
So we talked about mentors, and on your show, how mentors are so important to your guests and to you. And as you were growing up, how your father was so much of a mentor and inspirational to you. What type of lessons besides, hey, put down your phone and talk to people face to face? What are you trying to impart on your kids, and as far as them being unplugged?
Yeah, so I would say if I were to teach my kids one thing, there is one thing my kids know. And it's to be honest. That if a parent calls me and said your kid was lying, I'm like, there's no way. I know if there's one thing I know that they're not going to do is lie. And so that's my wife Heather and I. That's definitely, if you messed up and you did something wrong, so be it. But if you lied about it, now you're in deep trouble. And so, because honesty people are okay with mistakes, but people really aren't okay with you trying to fib your way through.
Yeah, no kidding. I just, I think about all the times where friends and family and coworkers and neighbors and just random people have just completely screwed up and just dropped the ball, disappointed me, whatever. It's like, all right, come on, let's figure this out and we'll move on. But the people who have lied to me, the people who have tried to manipulate me or hide the truth or serve me disinformation, and those people are no longer in my life. Like, I cut them out quick.
Yeah, exactly, because you can't trust them, because trust is the number one thing. If you can trust someone and they make an honest mistake, you're good with it. If you can't trust them, you'll never look at what they do or what they say, or you won't value it. The other thing is just, I'm a big believer in Jesus, and so we make sure our kids are exposed and know about their Savior and stuff like that. So we're a very strong Christian family. And, my family was like that, but I had a spiritual mentor in my 30s when I kind of got off track, that I had listened to some tapes that were about 15 years old. A guy by the name of John Deal out of Richmond, Virginia, who was an attorney, had put these tapes together, and he's got it was called Insight to Freedom. And he, is just one of those deals where his message really stuck with me. And I ended up reaching out to him, and we became very good friends. And so that's the other thing when you're trying to find a mentor, do not be afraid to reach out. I mean, it's like, asking out that hot chick. I mean, all she can say is no, right?
Right.
If you never ask, you never know.
Or that hot dude if you're looking.
Yeah,
not for me or Todd, because we're both married, but whatever works for you.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is don't be bashful about, in a respectful way. Hey, I've got this question. Reach out, And I think people are, in their 50s and 60s that have a lot of experience are more receptive to it than you would think. They're probably going to be flattered that you would ask.
That's really cool. So it's nice to know that people will be flattered, that they want to help, but we also kind of sometimes we want to be respectful. We don't want to waste people's time. We don't want to just take, right? We want to give. We want to, make it a two-way conversation. So maybe what's something that we can do to reach out to someone in a nice, respectful way where it's not just, hey, you have knowledge that I need so that I can make some more money or be some more successful or whatever.
Well, in the case of John Deal, I'd listened to his tapes and I just reached out and said, man, your message really has impacted me. And then, that conversation led to another few conversations. And all of a sudden I invited him to Tulsa to speak. And he said, sure. And so I think initially you're just, you flatter them with kindness and saying, hey, I've watched you from afar. I really think you're great. And, stuff like that, because you probably do feel that way if you're reaching out to them. And so, and then you just see where it takes you, but don't be afraid to ask for something. I mean, you never know where that conversation is going to go.
So, Todd, I don't know where this conversation is going to go, but I love where we're headed. But when we get back, I want to ask you more about these mentorships and what you're trying to achieve with your new podcast that you're about to launch any day now, and the types of people who make good mentors and how we can be a mentor, kind of like pay it forward at the same time that we're trying to find a great mentor for where we're at in our life. But first, we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Minio Cloud Storage. Minio is a cloud object storage server for developers and DevOps written in Go. The Go programming language is the emerging language of choice for modern cloud infrastructure projects, and it allows Minio to be highly concurrent and lightweight. Minio is Amazon S3 compatible, built with microstorage architecture in mind, but at its heart, Minio is simple, scalable, and supported by a passionate developer and user community. In episode 89 of Hello Tech Pros, I talked with A.B. Periasamy, one of the founders of Minio, about the importance of community support and recruiting software developers who are as passionate about their product's code as artists are of their art. Check out that episode at hellotechpros.com/89 and check out Minio Cloud Storage at minio.io. That's minio.io. Okay, we're back with Todd Conklin, who is a veteran of the oil and gas business, and he's starting a podcast and mastermind called The Significant Mentor. And we talked to Todd about how he's going to be interviewing accomplished people about the mentors in their life, and a couple of mentors that stood out in Todd's life has been his father and this the spiritual individual that really, well, he put kind of a podcast together back in the day, right? It wasn't a podcast, but he put some tapes together, some audio, and you listen to it, and dude, maybe there might be somebody. This is 2016. There might be somebody in the year 2031 that is listening to this for the first time. Welcome to the future, audience. And wanting to get a hold of us. I don't know how you can.
You never know. I mean, those tapes now are probably 25 years old. They're online. I'll have to send you the link. But it's just interesting how some of this evergreen communication is out there for a reason.
Well, great messages are timeless, right? And great mentors can inspire generations of people over and over and over again. So when you're talking to your guests and when you're thinking about this show that you're putting together that's about to launch, it's probably out by the time that you're listening to this in the year 2031. I'm sure it's out by now.
If it's not out by 31, it's not coming.
Don't hold your breath.
No.
So these mentors. Well, first of all, what makes a great mentor? What is a great mentor, and how do we become one?
Yeah, I think that's part of my quest. I mean, I have probably a narrow definition,
Hmm.
but it's usually a guide. I mean, it's someone that'll say, "Hey, I think you should." They make recommendations. They're good listeners, and if you don't go down that path, then you don't get crucified for it, because a good mentor understands he doesn't have all the answers. He just knows what he knows, and he can give you his opinion. Um, and it's up to the mentee to kind of figure out, hey, is that a good direction for me or not? And then you pick up the pieces and go from there if it doesn't work. And a mentor kind of can guide in a bunch of different arenas, and it's usually in a life arena. I kind of distinguish a coach being more a skills based type of person that gets you to learn a specific thing. And a mentor is more of a guide, and usually in life or business, but it usually has to do with people and decisions. So, in the arena of marriage, I mean, a young guy that has two young kids that had been single on his own, and all of a sudden in about 2 or 3 years, he's got all this pressure on him. The older guy has been there. I've been there. A lot of people have been there. And so he just is just looking for is this how it's supposed to feel? And sometimes the answer is yes. It doesn't feel good, but it's normal. And that's helpful to some people.
Yeah, I think regardless of where you're at in career and life, there's this sense of, am I alone, right? This question of, is what I'm going through normal? I've heard my wife say the same thing about, when we had our daughter, right? Is some of the emotions, some of the stress, some of the pressure that's on her as a mom, and especially in today's world of everything's on Pinterest and you have to be the perfect mom, and you gotta make all the awesome Kit Kat cakes with the M&Ms on top and sprinkles, and document every perfect thing on the internet, on Facebook, and as well as, we're looking at homeschool next year, and all these things are going on. Like, is this normal? And is she okay? And is our daughter progressing okay? Are we screwing her up, right? And I think it's important for everybody to just reach out to someone when you're feeling those feelings and ask those questions, and probably they're going to say, yeah, it's kind of normal.
And I think things are exacerbated today because, for me, it feels like the world's moving faster, and the comparisons, like you say, to the Joneses across the street are more in your face. And we all want to provide the best and do the best, and especially for a guy, providing is a huge deal that the woman doesn't quite understand, and that becomes very pressure packed, and without knowing it, you'll bring that pressure into the relationship, and all of a sudden things are kind of going haywire, and you're like, I don't know what happened. But a lot of times it's the provision pressure is what I like to call it, for a guy that he knows things aren't quite right, but he's doing one thing that he thinks he's doing okay, but his buddies are in another business and they're killing it. And sometimes it gets exacerbated by the wife because it's like, why aren't we doing that? Right. And so everybody just needs to relax.
It'll all turn out. Well, Todd, if I wanted to be a significant mentor, what advice would you have for me so that I can... I'm 41. I have been a software developer in my 20s, and started getting into IT leadership in my 30s, and now as a 40 something, I'm kind of in this middle ground area, right, where I'm looking to grow in certain areas. I'm looking to grow in entrepreneurship and business, and starting my own business and doing this podcast thing. But at the same time, I could also be a mentor to other folks who are just starting in one of those two areas. So what can I do to be a significant mentor to potential mentees?
Well, I think, Chad, what you're doing right now is of significance. You are spending a lot of time to create a platform and getting guests to advise your listeners on a bunch of different aspects. And the platform to me is great because the number of people that you can get to listen to this is leveraged by the internet versus, and I don't think anything's wrong with the one-on-one mentorship. And it just depends on what you feel like you offer, or your strengths more. I'm going to leverage the internet, and since I'm a techie, this is how I want to do it. I don't think that there's a right or a wrong way. It's just up to the individual. But just go help somebody that's below you, and I didn't mean below, but I mean younger, that you've already experienced some certain things that maybe they've got questions about.
Yeah, there might be somebody who's the same age or even older than me that's looking at taking a shift in direction from maybe more on the business side of wherever they came from in their past to maybe they're ready to go into technology and they want to dive into it, learn how to be a software developer. And, they've designed systems and built systems logically and written the requirements. And now they're like, you know what? It looks kind of fun. I want to crack open the code and do it myself.
Yeah, there will be some young software developers listening to this going, I got into software development, but I don't quite like it.
Right.
How do I get out?
Yeah.
And, that's another probably area that I'm going to focus on is kind of transitions. I've got some friends that are starting to kind of go, all right, I've done this corporate gig. I've got one that I'm going to interview that had a big time corporate gig. In fact, I saw him last night. He said he was sitting in the executive meetings and he just knew that it was over. And he went and now he's teaching.
Wow.
And so, he's a great inspiration to me, and there's a bunch of guys that are going to be coming into that arena that people will help. How do I get out of what I'm doing? It's not that I want to go do nothing.
Right.
I just want to do something else.
Yeah. No, I completely understand that thought because, like you, Todd, I actually worked in the oil and gas business for 13 years. I thought it was going to be a 6-month contract, and it ended up being a 13-year career. And I loved it. I have no regrets. It was an amazing experience. I worked with some absolutely brilliant people, and just grew so much, from, like you said before, that single guy who didn't have any responsibility and didn't know anything about life and knew a little bit about technology to, a married man with a family, grew into a leader, and went through the ups and downs of the oil market for, the last decade and a half. And there was just a point in late 2014 where I was like, you know what? I just feel like this downswing that's hitting us right now is probably going to be pretty hard because we haven't had a real hard one in a long time. And I'm okay with if there's a package deal or something.
Give me the package.
Let me go, man. Give me the package. I got these golden handcuffs. And can somebody unchain them?
Yeah, the oil companies are very good at putting those around you.
Well, I figured out the secret to unlocking them. So maybe I could be a mentor to other people who are locked in those golden handcuffs and want to get out.
Well, yeah, and the guys that have been laid off, and as many people know, our business has been decimated, and probably, I know in my group I've laid off 50% of my guys.
Oh, man.
And what are you going to do because there aren't many jobs. We're looking for a reservoir engineer. We have 350 applicants for one spot.
Wow. What is it normally when you open up a spot like that?
Well, back in 2014, you were like, could you fog a mirror and have a reservoir engineering degree? We'll hire you. So it's gone from, if you could just spell reservoir engineer, we'll hire you, to 350 people for one slot.
Goodness.
Amazing.
Well, I bet there's a lot of mentors in that in that pool that you could probably pull from and maybe get some inspiration out of. Todd, you've inspired me a lot. You've taught me a lot about mentors, mentees, and just just dealing with life here on the show. But if you have any final words of wisdom for our audience, kind of sum us up with what you'd like the audience to take away from this.
I think it's important to have an early morning routine. I know that there's a lot of guys that espouse to that, and for me, it's having a quiet time and reading scripture and getting centered. But if you're just waking up and hopping in the shower and eating breakfast and hooking it to work, then I think you're kind of missing something that can help you in the morning, and you just kind of need to be introspective, because I think the days get very noisy and very busy. And then I'd invest heavily in health, family, and friends, and that's where I'd spend my money is in those places. And then, you and I talked a little bit. So for guys in the tech arena that are back in the back in the IT offices, I would advise you to get out of your office and go talk to those guys that are that you're trying to help create solutions for, because they know what they want, but they just don't know how to do it. And so I think they would be open for those kind of conversations. If you've got an idea, it's like, man, I can help him, but he hadn't asked me. I think it's an incumbent upon you to get out of your office and go say, look, hey, I think this can work for you. I think this is what you're doing. And so those conversations between IT and the frontline guys that are trying to provide solutions, I think the IT guys have a lot more to offer than they're offering, just because they're afraid that, hey, I'm not being asked.
Right.
So get out of the office, go talk to those guys.
Awesome. Great stuff. Todd, if we wanted to talk to you, how could we get a hold of you, your podcast? Do you have any links for us?
I do. So my email is todd@significantmentor.com. I'll just give you my phone number if you want to call me. 918.
Wow, cool. Wait. Hold on. Let me type this down so make sure I got it.
This kind of comes off, I don't know if there's a book out there called Love Does from Bob Goff. Mm-hmm. And this sucker puts his phone number at the back of the book. And I've had friends, in fact, I've got a friend in the book, but people have called him and he answers. And I think that is the coolest thing. So my number is 918-671-5223 if you want to have a conversation. And my website is significantmentor.com.
Awesome.
I think.
You think?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, good.
I don't know that yet, by the way. It will be by the time this posts.
Yeah. We're recording in the past. We're publishing in the future, and then the listeners are listening to it in 2031. So it's already there. It has grown so much. Significant Mentor is a household name by this point. Everybody knows about it, dude. Their websites, everybody's linked up on it. Wow. It's good.
That's quite the vision. I appreciate your big thinking.
That's what I'm here to do. Todd, thank you so much for joining me on Hello Tech Pros today. I really value your friendship and your honesty and your mentorship to me, and I appreciate you taking time out of your Unplugged Sunday to spend time with us.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate it.
You bet. Tech Pros, man, go, regardless of where you are in your career, regardless of where you are in life, you have experienced stuff that other people are just starting to walk down that trail, and you can be a mentor to them. Regardless of, you just graduated college. Well, there are high school kids that are going into college right now, are trying to figure out how to get through the process. If you are a 40-year veteran, then there's a lot of people that you can help in life and work and everything in between. And there are other people that have been down the roads that you have been down. And if they haven't been down the specific road, they can at least share their experience and relate to you as a human being. Get out of your office, unplug from your headsets, unplug from your computers and go talk to real humans about real life stories and life events. You've been listening to Todd Conklin, and I'm Chad Bostic. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/133. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been Sunday being unplugged, but tomorrow my featured guest and I will get fired up and ready to face the week with Motivation Monday. On Tuesday, we'll be discussing productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and back again on Sunday to get unplugged. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.